design your space for success. So we talked about maybe it's that you want to read. Well, then maybe you create a cute little reading nook that you're really excited to read in and that you see it all the time, right? Creating that space for it. And then visual cues. Remind yourself, make yourself sticky notes, vision boards. Put it on the front of your phone, set an alarm in your phone so that you're reminding yourself of this habit. All of this is going to eventually go away. The point is that you need it there so that you create this pattern and your brain does it automatically.
Welcome to Becoming Tantalum with me, Megan Bennell. Discover your brightest self in a journey of transformation and resilience. Let's embark on this path together, starting now.
Welcome back, my repeat listeners and my new friends, to Becoming Tantalum. I'm Megan Bennell, I'm your host, and I am on this transformative journey with you for self-discovery and completely blowing your own mind in your life. So this month, we've been embarking on an exploration of taking action. So we've talked about setting goals, overcoming obstacles, cultivating a mindset that is going to propel you forward. And today, we're going to talk about the final piece of this taking action puzzle, and that is addressing the cornerstone of enduring achievement. So not just this goal, but keeping it rolling so that you can continue to make progress. And that's the idea of cultivating habits that not only support, but ensure you continued progress and success. So let's talk about the power of habits. We're going to kind of unravel the essence of habits altogether because they're not just the routines that you perform, but they're really the architecture of your entire daily existence because they wield the power to automate, which we love, your ascent towards success, transforming all of your dreams into those tangible realities that you want, or the opposite. And they can cause us to continue to live the life that we aren't loving on repeat, which is not what we want. So imagine with me the compound effects of all of your little tiny daily disciplines and the small choices that when you consistently apply them can dramatically alter the trajectory of your life. So I'm going to explain the neuroscience behind habit formation and that profound effect that automating actions can have on achieving your grandest of goals. So as we go through this, I want you to keep in the forefront of your mind the goal that you picked for this month. So I asked you, a few episodes ago to pick one. So I'm going to give you examples as we go through this, but those examples might not relate to that one goal that you have. I want you to be keeping that one goal in mind so that you can take this information and apply it to that goal specifically. It's applicable to everything else you want to do in life, but so that it's very applicable to what you're working on, I want you to keep that up in the forefront of your mind. So, habit formation is a process that's really deeply rooted in your brain, primarily in an area that's called the basal ganglia. And I like to refer to that as your primitive brain. And that area plays a really key role in the development of your emotions and your memories and pattern recognition, that being the important part, because habits are formed through this 3-part loop that we have. You have a cue, you have a routine, you have a reward. And that loop on repeat is what establishes patterns in your primitive brain. And then that's what's going to allow that brain to automatically spit out for you what you desire, what you want, those thoughts that you don't have to put any effort into. So let's talk about those 3 pieces just a little bit. A cue is a signal that's going to trigger you to initiate a behavior. And so it could be anything. It could be the time of day, a feeling, or a specific environment. And that's going to tell your brain to go into automatic mode into which habit it wants to use. Okay, so there's some sort of cue or trigger. And then there's the routine, and that's the behavior itself that follows that trigger that you have. It could be physical, it can be mental, or it can be emotional. And that's the action that your primitive brain is going to automatically take when you encounter your cue, whatever that is. And then there's your reward. And that's what helps your brain figure out whether or not this is a habit loop that you want to continue on. And over time, that process becomes more and more automatic. It sees this cue, it knows what to do, it knows it's going to get a reward, okay, on repeat. The more you do it, the more automatic it becomes. And that's going to lead to a really powerful sense of anticipation and it craving these urges that you have they emerge as you create this pattern and it becomes more and more established. And so, not just cravings with food, but craving for this behavior that you're going to do and the reward that you're going to receive. So, that is all. That process of cue and routine and reward is really underpinned by neurotransmitters, one of which is dopamine. And your brain loves dopamine. Your brain will do anything, your primitive brain will do anything to get its next hit of dopamine. Remember that your primitive brain really does three things: it wants to stay safe, it wants to seek pleasure, and it wants to do that as efficiently as possible. So once it finds a routine or a habit that it can get and automatically get that pleasure, get that dopamine hit, it's going to encourage you to do that every single time you come across that cue. So when that behavior is rewarded, you get a dopamine hit. That's going to reinforce your action. Your brain's going to think that's a good plan and make a habit out of it. So keep in mind, though, that those habits can be healthy and purposeful behaviors that are aligned with what you want to do, or they can be those habits that you're dying to break. Your brain gets that dopamine hit as long as there's a reward attached, either way. So, from the goal achievement perspective, because that's really what we're talking about this week, habits are incredibly powerful because they automate your behavior. And once that habit is formed, then you have this new pattern in your primitive brain. And so it will perform that action without extending a lot of effort mentally. I mean, it might be a physical effort, but it won't have to think through it, won't have to decide. It's going to do it automatically. And that makes it easier to stick to that behavior that will lead to your goals, right? So, for example, if you have a goal of improving your physical health, establishing the habit of exercising every morning is going to automate that process. You're going to have a cue. You get up, your workout clothes are laid out, you go to the gym, and then there's a reward after that, whatever that is. Maybe it's that you feel amazing, your brain is clear for the day, whatever it is. But that habit is going to reduce that mental load of fighting that every single morning. The automation of those actions is what's going to allow your brain and the cognitive resources to be allocated elsewhere. And that's going to allow you to focus on more complex tasks and get closer and closer and closer to your goals. So, efficiency is crucial for achieving your long term goals because your brain can only process so much at one time using your prefrontal cortex, which is your logical brain. So, we want to establish patterns that we want in that primitive brain. That also is going to allow you to rely less on motivation and on willpower because those can be finite and variable, right? Depending on the day. And so you won't have to rely on that discipline anymore because it's just automatic. So, understanding and leveraging that neuroscience of that habit formation can significantly impact whether or not you achieve a goal. And that's what this is all about, right? Is achieving that one goal you have in your mind. So we want to work on intentionally creating cues and rewards for your desired behavior, for that routine, so that you can establish those powerful habits that will propel you forward. So, the hard truth is, before we dive into how you're going to go about doing that, is that at the very beginning, it can be very difficult. Changing those automatic pathways that you've already established, even if you didn't know that you did, can be difficult. But the good news is that every single time you take that new pathway, you have that cue, you have that routine, you have that reward, every single time it becomes easier until eventually you've reprogrammed that primitive brain and it does this pattern without effort. You've made a new habit, which is beautiful. So, where do you start? I would like you to start with something called a keystone habit. Because here's the thing, if you're looking at a massive overhaul of change in your life, that can be very overwhelming. But what if I told you that you could have a massive impact with just changing one thing? That is a keystone habit. So that's what I would like you to try to identify and work on because they hold the weight of your routines and they have this domino effect. We'll talk about that in a little bit that support and influence other behaviors as well. So think of a keystone in an arch. That keystone at the very top holds the most weight. It's the most important and it influences everything else in being strong. Your keystone habits are going to be the same. So it could be daily exercise, it could be a ritual of journaling, it could be self-talk, it could be mindful eating. I mean, there's a lot of things that you want to change. We need to find the habit that's going to make those the easiest to change and have a ripple effect throughout your day and your week and your month. So, we're going to dive into how you can identify your own keystone habits so that you have this transformative potential. You need to do a little bit of introspection and analysis in your daily routine to determine which habits, because we all have a ton of habits, are actually powerful enough to be considered a keystone habit. Which one has chain reactions, ripple effects in your daily life? So, the first thing I want you to do is just reflect on your current habits. You can do this just on a piece of paper. Just start by making a list of your daily routines, both positive and negative, right? Don't judge them, just write them down. What are habits that you have on a daily basis? And then for each one of those, I want you to analyze their impact. Does it contribute to your well being, to your productivity, to your happiness? Does it lead to other positive behaviors? Or is that specific habit putting out ripples of negative behaviors and results? Okay. So keystone habits are always going to have a domino effect. You do this, and because you did that, this also happens, and this also happens, and this also happens. And we want one that has that effect. And then after you've written down all of your habits, analyzed each of their impacts on your life, I want you to look for patterns. So identify the ones that have the ripple effects that either you really don't want or that have the ripple effects that you do want. For example, if you do have regular exercise every morning, that might not just be improving your physical health, which of course it is, but it could also be increasing your mental clarity. It could be boosting your confidence. It could be enhancing your productivity at work, right? Do you see how it's not just that you're getting physically healthier, but it has this ripple effect for the rest of your day in your life? Taking a step back from that, I want you to remember your pillars in your life. Like, what are your core values? What is most important to you? What do you most want to improve? And I want you to take that list of your habits and those keystones that you've identified, because these have these massive ripple effects. And I want you to look at which ones are either the most detrimental to your pillars. So not only are they keystone, but they have the most negatively profound effect. And which ones either you think you need to implement or you need to boost up that have the most positive impact on your pillars. And the reason that I say that is whatever is most important to you is going to be where you feel the best or the worst. And so I want you to pick that one thing that's making you feel in this ripple effect form the worst, and that one thing that with their ripple effect would make you feel the best. Okay, just one thing. And that's going to be the keystone habits you're going to focus on. And then I would love, and I'm going to give you like a challenge later, but I would love for you to experiment with breaking just one of those bad things that you think is going to have the biggest impact because it most negatively impacts you now, and establish one that you think is going to have the most positive ripple effect and impact in the most important areas of your life. So notice once you do that, notice that impact and see if it really is something that's significant enough to shift your behavior and your mindset. So these keystone habits, these ones that have these ripple effects, have the ability to create widespread change in your life. And that's what's most important to focus on. So, for example, a keystone habit might be that you plan out your day each morning. And because of that, it enhances your time management and it reduces your stress and it increases your productivity, right? That might be one simple thing that you do at the beginning of every day. And because you do, the ripples continue to go throughout the day in a positive way. So this is actually one of mine. And because of it, I've established this. It's on a weekly basis, not a daily basis. But because of that, I now have a live session that people are welcome to attend called the Power Hour on Mondays. And it's only 1 hour, just 1 hour of your day. I'm sorry, 1 hour of your week, right? Because it's on Monday. But what we do is we really think through in a very structured kind of way what has to happen in your entire week and plan out your whole week. But that 1 hour allows for you to have the freedom of worry of missing something. It gives you more time. Always, that's a result. You just get more time. And it ensures that what needs to get done gets done. So that 1 hour has a huge effect on the rest of my day. And it's simple, right? It was a simple change, 1 hour, and it has a massive domino effect for the entire week. It's 1 hour and it changes everything. That would be a keystone habit. You'll find that as you establish these keystone habits or break these keystone habits, it's going to encourage you automatically to have a mindset change to continue to improve, because you'll see this one thing that had a profound effect and that encourages you to change other little tiny things. So as you see the positive effects of these habits, you're likely to adopt other beneficial habits or break other not beneficial habits, creating this cycle of personal and professional change. And that's why I like to start with keystone habits. You get your biggest bang for your buck. The opposite is true as well, right? With the negative habits, those negative habits bleed into other areas of your life, and changing that one thing unbleeds that from other areas of your life. And you'll see that positive change with just that one habit that's broken. So, an example of that, at the end of each day, I used to have a glass of wine. I was done with work. I would go home and have a glass of wine. Not a big deal, right? It's just one glass of wine. But it wasn't. It was one glass of wine that then I wanted to have a snack with, that then maybe I would have another glass of wine. Now I'm not doing exactly what I need to be doing or being as productive as I want to be. I'm eating things that I don't really want to eat. I'm not focusing, but it keeps going. My sleep is affected because, alcohol wreaks havoc on your sleep. My sleep is affected, and now I'm waking up not feeling on top of the world every morning. So it's bleeding into the next day. Well, then what did I do? Went to work, made it happen, survived. It was great. Came home, had a glass of wine. And here we go all over again. So the cue for me was that I was the end of work, I got home, right? My routine was I would have a glass of wine. But then the reward of that is you're like, well, I love the wine and I feel relaxed. Although that's fictitious, by the way, but so I feel relaxed. And then it's just this habit, this pattern that was automatic and established. It's almost as if I wasn't even making the choice to have the glass of wine anymore. So I identified that. I was like, I'm going to not do that anymore. I'm not going to have that glass of wine. And I'm not going to lie, it was really hard at first because my brain felt like that's what I needed to do at that time of day. But within 1 week, so a few hard days, and within 1 week, it wasn't even on my mind. And now I'm far more productive in the evenings. I go to bed without alcohol in my system, so I sleep much better. And I wake up feeling on top of the world, ready to start. And so now breaking that unbled, right? Those negative effects from my life. And I saw instant, almost positive change. That was amazing. It was very transformational. So that's an example of a negative keystone habit. One little thing, just changing one little thing changed so much. So by focusing on changing or cultivating one significant habit, even if it's a little one, you can avoid that overwhelming, I want to change so much, because you're going to see so much is going to change from just this one thing. And that singular focus is what's going to make it manageable and sustainable, because it's just one thing. So I want to ask you, what keystone habit do you think you want to change or drop? And on the flip side, what keystone habit do you think you want to establish? And if you don't know, then go through that process of checking out your daily routines, really looking at their impact, deciding what you think is most important, based on your pillars, and experiment and find out which one change can have a massive domino effect, because that's a powerful strategy to catalyze this personal and professional growth. And you'll see that it will probably lead to you wanting to change another little thing and another little thing. And that'll have a profound impact on your habits in general. How do you build, though, and break habits, right? Because it's so easy to say that, but then you come home from work and you want that glass of wine. So how is it that you can build or break a habit? You have to dissect the anatomy of that habit. So we talked about the cue and the routine and the reward. You need to have very clear understanding of what that cue is, a very clear understanding of what your specific routine, what that behavior is, and a clear understanding of what the reward is. And until you have that, it's really difficult to understand how to break it. But spend some time and get clarity on that, the cue, the routine, the reward. And then you're going to change some aspect of that. And there's lots of ways to do that. So you're going to detect whatever that trigger is. You're going to identify your behavior that goes with it and understand what benefit you get out of it. And then you're going to alter your cue. So maybe you minimize exposure. Maybe it's something that you can just remove, or you can alter that cue in general. Maybe it's something that you need to replace with something else. If you stress snack, right? Instead of snacking to reduce that, replace that with something else that can reduce stress. So breathing or meditation, or however you want to respond to that, and create a new cue for that. So let's say that instead your issue is that you really want to work out more and you want to do that in the mornings, but you wake up in the morning, you're like, I don't want to go. What if you laid out your clothes somewhere where when you woke up, you see them? And so you know they're there the night before you're setting your brain up for it. That morning, that's the cue that you need to get up and do that, right? So you can establish a new cue or you can lessen the cues in your life and then modify your routine. So if you have a behavior, you can substitute that behavior for something else. So perhaps it's that you are browsing on social media. Maybe that's like your go to when you're bored and you don't want to do that anymore. Instead of doing that, replace that with something else. Maybe you want to go for a walk. Maybe you want to do something physical. Maybe you want to do a little meditation, but just physically replace that instead. So every time you have the desire to do that behavior, you know you're going to pre-decide that you're going to do something else instead. Or you can start really, really small. So you can break down that habit maybe into manageable steps and change just one of those little steps if it's something that's massive, okay? And then you're going to redefine your reward. So you're going to identify something that's really compelling for you, ensuring that the reward of this new habit is something that's amazing. So maybe after exercising, you don't feel that, runner's high. Maybe that's not you. Well, then maybe you treat yourself to a relaxing shower or you treat yourself to your favorite healthy snack that you only have after you work out, right? So establishing that new reward so that your brain gets that hit of dopamine that it's so badly looking for and celebrate your success. No matter how small your achievement is, one day, 2 day, one habit, two habits, it doesn't matter. Celebrate that because your celebration of it is going to reinforce that positive loop. And remember, we have to reinforce that so that it becomes automatic. So it becomes that pattern that your primitive brain automatically does. It really is important too. So that's talking about the cues and the routine and the rewards, but it's really important to create a supportive environment that you're in. If your goal is to read more, maybe you create a cool little spot in your house where you would be excited to read and seek support from people from your family and from your friends, and not people that are going to hold you accountable in a detrimental way, but people that are going to be encouraging to you and remind you of your why and be excited and celebrate those little successes for you. So having that environment is a really important piece of it. Use technology wisely. Maybe you love creating checklists or you love seeing progress. Use technology to have like a habit tracking app, right? Where you can track it every single day so that you can celebrate that success. You can see what it looks like every single day. That's always a fun way to do it if you're somebody that enjoys kind of tracking what you do. Be really mindful of what's happening. So, really having awareness of your habits and being more present in what's happening so that you can recognize those cues, so that you can make intentional choices when they're there instead of automatically following through. So, just because your primitive brain is telling you that you want to do something doesn't mean that you have to. So, being mindful of that cue that's coming up, even pre deciding if you know that it's ahead of you, what your behavior is going to be in response, because that breaks that cycle. It stops that pattern of that cue of the routine and the reward. It stops it. And the more times you stop it, the sooner it goes away. So be very mindful of what's going on. And then be patient with yourself and be persistent. Understand that setbacks are all part of the process and you're not perfect and you're going to have those moments, but that isn't a reason to abandon ship. It's just a reason to remind yourself to be more aware, be proud of what you've already done, and then face the future and keep moving forward. Consistency is really the key to that, making sure that you understand that there's setbacks, but you're going to continue on the path that you're on. Repetition is what's going to establish that habit loop. So keep going. So, empowering yourself to reshape all of these habit loops is more than just breaking bad habits, but really constructing ones that are going to align with your values and goals. And that's why I asked you to find one of each. I want you to find a negative keystone habit and I want you to find a positive keystone habit because it's not just about breaking it, but also establishing new ones. So, to bring this to action, I want to challenge you to something. For 1 week, I just want you to identify one habit that you'd like to establish or break, just one. Okay, so you're breaking it because it doesn't align with your aspirations, or you're making it because it does. And I want you to go through that process of figuring out what the cue is and what the routine is and what the reward is. And if you're breaking it, I want you to change your cue, eliminate it if you can, or be mindful when it comes up. If you're making it, I want you to create that cue so that it's something that you see. So maybe it is laying out those workout clothes in the morning, like I talked about. So just for 1 week, Be very mindful and purposeful in creating or breaking just one keystone habit. And I want you to really analyze the effect that that's having. So, what else is more positive because you broke a habit or because you're establishing a new one? And watch those ripples on a day to day basis, because that's what's going to be encouraging and motivating to keep going with this habit loop until it becomes automatic. So, I'd love to encourage you to do that. But let's talk about the long term. So it's really easy to do something for a week, right? But as we look beyond that horizon, sustaining that momentum is really what's going to determine your success. And so, how is it that you can have this persistent, accumulated action so much so that it becomes automatic? You have to create an environment that's conducive. You have to understand the importance of accountability, and you need to understand the role of incremental little mini rewards in reinforcing it. Let's talk about those three things real quick. So, we're talking long term. Once you figure out, yes, this is a keystone habit, and now I need to figure out a way that I can keep it up. So, creating an environment that's conducive to either breaking your habit or forming a new one is huge. And it could be your physical space, it could be social support, it could be a personal commitment. So, it's not just necessarily changing your immediate environment, but leveraging that accountability and these rewards. So, to talk about creating this conducive environment, you need to remove temptations if you're trying to break something, right? Break a habit. Maybe it's that you want to eat healthier. Well, go into your pantry and take out those snacks that you know are the worst for you and that you tend to lean towards every time, right? Just remove that temptation. Design your space for success. So, we talked about maybe it's that you want to read. Well, then maybe you create a cute little reading nook that you're really excited to read in and that you see it all the time, right? Creating that space for it. And then visual cues. Remind yourself, make yourself sticky notes, vision boards. Put it on the front of your phone, set an alarm in your phone so that you're reminding yourself of this habit. All of this is going to eventually go away. The point is that you need it there so that you create this pattern and your brain does it automatically. And then the importance of accountability. Share your goals. So, with those people that you know are going to support you, it could be a family, it could be a friend. You could join a support group. There's all kinds of support groups for all kinds of different things, or get a coach. That's literally exactly what we do. Is part of it is holding you accountable, helping you determine what it is that you need to do, and then helping you find that motivation, find that empowerment, and keep on your path, whatever that path is. And then the idea of rewards. So it is really important to break your goal that you have into smaller, achievable milestones. We talked about that. That makes it more manageable. It gives you clear little milestones or checkpoints that you can reward yourself, and that's important. You need to reward yourself. So every milestone needs to have a specific reward. So if you're establishing a new habit, maybe that's a number of days. Maybe it's after 3 days, after 10 days, after a month, right? Depends on what your new habit is. But reward yourself with that. And doesn't have to be something intense. It could be just a simple bath, or it could be a little small purchase, or whatever it happens to be. Maybe you're eating healthier. And so after a week, you're going to allow yourself to have a joy meal, right? Whatever it is, reward yourself for that little progress, because that is another dopamine in your brain telling you this is a good habit and I'm going to get rewards for staying on it. And then reflect on your progress. It's really important to acknowledge the progress that you've made and every reward that you earned. That reflection is going to reinforce that positive impact on your new habits and can motivate you to continue. So, all of that is really geared towards supporting a lifetime of achievement, right? It's going to allow you to adopt a growth mindset where you're embracing challenges and setbacks, where you're rewarding yourself for what you're doing well. You can stay flexible because you'll see long term that even if you had days that were up and down, that you were able to adjust your strategies and stay on course to wherever it is that you think you're headed, whatever goal that you have. And you made it enjoyable, right? That makes it sustainable. Having those little rewards along the way makes it fun for you to continue on your path, and makes it something that you can sustain along the way because you know that these little moments of fun are coming your way. So by creating that supportive environment, right, for yourself, by leveraging that accountability from someone or from a group, and by celebrating your successes, that's going to lead to that long-term growth mindset and strengthen and allow you to flex those growth muscles, because it's not always easy to grow personally or professionally. So remember that today is not just about this monthly theme of taking action. This really can lay the foundation of anything that you want to change or achieve in your life. It all starts with those simple little keystone habits and the commitments that you make to yourself to go through the process of either making or breaking them. Thank you so much. I would love to hear about your progress. I would love to hear what keystone habits you have found. I have enjoyed so much reading your emails and talking to people that are in the tribe and interacting with some of you on the live coaching calls. I think that it's been so fun to watch your progress as you've been following this podcast. So if you haven't been doing that, oh my goodness, reach out. Please, you can email me anytime. I would love to invite you to any of our live sessions, even if you're not in the tribe. And if you're in the tribe, keep doing the hard work. I'm enjoying all of that interaction and watching you transform your lives. It's been enjoyable. For the rest of you that are just listeners, that's totally fine. I absolutely love you as well. Please subscribe so that you don't miss any of the episodes. Give it a like, give it a review, reach out, tell me how it's going. I would love to hear from you. And of course, share if you think that this would be beneficial to somebody else that you know in your life. Until next week, I hope that you can work on identifying one of those keystone habits, make a change that's going to have positive ripples in your life. And I look forward to starting next month a whole new theme so that we can continue with your journey towards personal or professional success. But for right now, let's just do that one habit at a time. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. If you want to take all of these concepts and tools to a deeper level, apply them to your life, and watch the transformation happen, I would love for you to join the Tantalum Tribe. That's a monthly membership where all of our community has access to live coaching, self-paced courses, guest coaches, podcast study guides, anonymous question boards, and more. You too can transform your life using the tools and strategies that we have with accountability built in from our community. I really hope that you join us at tantalumcoaching.com. That's TANTALUM coaching.com. Just click join the tribe. I can't wait to see you in there.
An ironic media production. Visit us at ironickmedia.com.